Hello and welcome to another Haya video tutorial. This tutorial will cover how to use your premix and automix features. You'll see that you can enable or disable premix right here, and the to set that up, you're going to go into System and Settings. So this is the premix time in minutes. Uh, so this is how long the system will circulate water in your tank prior to doing a feeding. So for example, we're going to click on, so at any time also, if you have any questions about it, you can always click these circles with bubbles and question marks, which is very useful if you're not quite sure what this setting does. So for the premix stuff, we're just going to put in kind of like 1 minute, and you can see here you got your minimum and maximum time, so you can put in up to 1 minute and uh, as little as 5 minutes, or as much as 5 minutes and as little as 1 minute. So we'll go ahead and hit enter, and now that's set up. And that's the amount of time it will circulate water in your tank prior to a feeding. So we hit done here, and if we hit, we just simply enable premix, and what I'll do here is I'll just set this bank, set this manual mode, that's where we're in now, to just 0.1 to make it nice and quick. There we go. And I'll just click start, but the same happens if it auto kicks off as well. And you'll see here what it's initializing, configuring your valves. This is configuring for the mix mode, and now we're doing a premix. So this is going to run for 1 minute, and that's circulating the water in your tank. It's looping straight back to the tank. The mix valve is opened, the feed valve is closed, and the pump is quite aggressive, so it does a pretty good job at circulating the entire content of your tank back to itself, and the impeller and the pump is quite aggressive, so it does a really good job of kind of mixing it up and making sure that your parts per million distribution within your tank is within within reason, and much more, the nutrients is much more distributed throughout your tank. So when this is finished and it says it's doing a premix, it's going to jump straight into the feeding, as you will see in a moment here. So that ran for, or will have run for 1 minute. And now it's configuring valves. It's closing the mix valve, opening the feed valve. And then now it's going to actually run. And you can see it blasted through that pretty quick. So that's how premix works. If you don't have premix enabled, if you just disable it and you hit run, it's going to initialize, configure valves, and it's going to go straight into the feeding cycle. So, and as you can see, it's doing that. So that's how premix works. The auto mix feature here, so you'll see this is mix time. So this is, this is 1 to 10 minutes. So this time is used. So I'll just set it for 1 minute as well. This time is used for both auto mix as well as a manual mix. So if you're back into the kind of one of the main pages, any one of the bank control pages, if you hit start mix, you can kind of hit this and just kind of walk away, and the system's going to mix for whatever time we just set it to. We only set it to 1 minute here. So it's going to run this 1 minute and then automatically stop itself. And this is kind of handy if you're like, at your grow doing some maintenance, getting things, mixed up or whatever, and you're maybe just added nutrients and you kind of want to get it going, get it mixed up manually, you can do that. So of course you can kind of hit start mix, stop mix at any time. So, you can schedule it up to 10 minutes, but you can stop it at any time. Now, if you go back into system settings and you decide you want to enable auto mix, you'll see another field come up, and this is mix schedule in minutes. So what this does is currently it's set to 1 minute. Most time you wouldn't do this in real life in 1 minute. I got to keep the video short, but you might set this for every 60 minutes or 120 minutes for 2 hours or whatever. Every so often you want the system to go out and just mix your tank automatically. And the way this works is I just turn this on. So it'll kick on here in a minute on its own, and that 1 minute applies to any any significant event that happens. So maybe it did a mix, and so 1 minute after that mix stops, it will launch it again. So the time, you don't really give it a schedule. You just tell it, I want you to do this every so often. If it does a feeding and you have it set for, so there it goes right now. It's doing an auto mix now, and it's going to go out. It's going to mix, and this is going to end in a minute. And when it ends, it's going to reset that clock. So in another minute after it ended, it's going to run again. And if you have that set for 60 minutes, 60 minutes after an event happened, it's going to run again. And those events are a feeding. So if it did a feeding, after that feeding's over, it reschedules it out for whatever time you have here. If it does, if you go in like, if you go in and reset the time, if you mess with the time settings, it'll reschedule itself from there. Um, if you go into the maintenance page or something like that, it'll reschedule because in maintenance page the auto systems are kind of locked down. So if it was supposed to do an auto mix in the middle of when you were doing maintenance, I didn't want it to lose synchronization, so it's programmed to kind of schedule itself out after you leave that page. So and like you see here, it's gonna finish. So 1 minute from right now, because it just finished, it'll run this mix again. But if I set this to uh, 60 minutes, so every hour, it will do it in 60 minutes. And you can see here you have quite a bit of time, quite a time you can put in there. And it's done in minutes because we wanted to give you that resolution. So you do have to, you know, if you wanted to do every 2 hours, you would be 60 times 2, which would be 120 minutes. So you do got to do a little math there to figure that out, but it's not too hard. So that's kind of how that works. Or it is how that works. So the system will kind of every so often just do a mix for you automatically, and that's really how it works. So right now, if I were to do that, uh, it kind of trigger a manual mix, and then I stop. Now it's rescheduled out for a minute after I just stopped. So that's another event. So that's something worth noting. And other things that are events. So anytime you're in like when I said if you're resetting the time. So if you're doing this, it'll reschedule it out when you're done with it because it won't run while you're setting stuff up here. So it just rescheduled itself out just now. Another thing is if you're in here and you change the date and time settings, it will also reschedule itself out. So, if I decide to say, you know what, it's 9 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock, right now, it just rescheduled itself out for a minute after you just did that. Or actually, I think it's after you hit done there, it does that. So, uh, we'll set this back to 10. This is how you manually set up the time, by the way, if you're um, if your Wi-Fi module, if you don't want auto sync or anything like that. So okay, so that covers pretty much auto mix and premix. That's how they work. Hope you enjoyed, and there'll be more video tutorials to come. So long for now.